Hi everyone! Today I want to bring you a video that's a little bit overdue. I wanted to get this video done in January and it just didn't happen. I filmed it twice and it didn't work out either time. So I'm going to try this one more time, and it's my 2020 goals video. So basically I just want to talk about some plans that I have for this year, as well as looking back on my goals from last year and how I did with them. Now, of course, since this is a new channel, I don't have a video to reference back to from last year, but I did write a blog post with my goals for last year, and so I've got those here on my iPad, and I'm just gonna glance at those, go through those real quickly, and then tell you what I'm planning on doing differently in 2020. In 2019, my first goal was to stick to my reading challenges. Yeah, that was it. That was the whole resolution. Could I have been any more vague? Probably not. But I guess when I wrote that, I was thinking about all of the challenges that I had already signed up for last year, most of which I failed miserably at. 2019 was a really hard year. It was my first year back to work after several years of being a stay-at-home mom, plus I was juggling grad school. And honestly, it was the worst mental health year that I've had since I was a teenager. So I'm in a much better place now. 2020 has already been a much better year than 2019 was. So hopefully it keeps that trend going. But yeah, so everything kind of fell to the wayside last year. I'm done beating myself up over how badly I failed my reading goals last year, and we're just gonna keep going. Number 2 on my list was to join more challenges and readathons. I did join a lot in the first half of last year. However, like I said, I failed most of them. I became kind of convinced that I had like a readathon curse last year, because every single readathon that I tried to join, whether I was just joining it or even like the ones that I was hosting, I just did so badly at. It's like every time a readathon would start, I'd be so excited and I'd be like really in a good reading mood right before it started. And then the day that it started, I would hit like a terrible reading slump. So it reached a point last year where I just kind of stopped joining them. We'll call that resolution a failure too. My third goal last year was to get less review copies, less ARCs. This is definitely the resolution that I failed the hardest at. I hauled so many review copies last year. So moving along. My fourth resolution, and the first one that I actually succeeded at, was to buy less and borrow more. In 2018, I hauled way too many books. I spent way too much money, and my bank account could not handle a repeat of that last year. But I have to say, I actually did a really good job last year. I did still buy some books, of course, but it was mostly pre-orders of books that were super anticipated, or finished copies of books that I had read ARCs of and loved, or like special editions of books that I already loved. But I didn't do a lot of like random book buying last year. Pretty much anything that I could borrow from the library, I did, which was a big change for me because I borrowed very little the year before last. Okay, my fifth resolution, this one makes me a little bit sad. It was to have less buddy reads last year. Because in 2018, I did a ton of buddy reads, and I didn't read very many ARCs because I buddy read so many backlist books, which is fine. But like my goal for last year was like, oh, I'm not going to read backlist books. I'm going to focus on ARCs. And not only did I not do buddy reads last year, but the very few that I did sign up for, I failed at miserably. I'm so sorry to all of you. And I still didn't read very many ARCs last year. So I don't think that really worked out the way I thought it would. All it did was make me sad and lonely. Okay, my sixth goal for last year was to read one book per month that was at least 600 pages long, because I have a lot of big books on my TBR that I never get around to because I typically reach for books in like the 300 to 400 page range, or even shorter than that. I failed pretty terribly at this one too. I checked my Goodreads stats for last year and I read one book over 600 pages in all of 2019. And it was a manga, so I'm not even sure that it counts. If you're curious, it was by Junji Ito. Almost all of his manga are humongous. He writes horror manga. If you haven't read anything by him, he's one of the most twisted individuals that I've ever had the pleasure of reading from. Highly recommend his work. Okay, and then my seventh and final goal for 2019 was to read at least one book per month that I had not read before from an author that I already loved. This one I knocked out of the park. Like, I looked at my reading from last year and I was able to find at least 2 or 3 books per month that were unread books from authors that I already loved. Now, some of them were new releases, but I did not specify that they had to be backlist releases. Just said they had to be authors that I already loved. And I actually did write down one book that I read each month that fit this. So if you're curious, in January I read Dead of Winter by Kaylin Patrick Burke. For February I read Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. In March I read Untouchable by Talia Hibbert. In April I read The Cardigans by Cole McCade, which is the first book in the Criminal Intentions Season 1 series. In May I read The Bride Test by Helen Huang. In June I read The Girl in Red by Christina Henry. In July I read We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, which I feel like a very unpopular opinion in that I did not like it at all. In August I read God's Grave by Jay Kristoff. In September, I read Dead to the World, which is the 4th book in the Sookie Stackhouse series by Charlene Harris. In October, I read a short story bind-up by Mike Thorne called Dreams of Lake Drucka and Exhumation. In November, I read Get Alive, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, one of my favorite reads of last year. And in December, I read Secret Santa by Katie Wilde, which is the pen name for a group of, I want to say, 4 romance authors. So yeah, I did succeed at the goal of reading at least one unread book by an author that I already loved every month in 2019. So I'm proud of myself for that. And I think I would actually like to extend that goal to 2020. I wasn't very conscious about it last year. It kind of just happened. Like, it just kind of worked out that I happened to read those books. But I think I would like to make it one of my goals for 2020 as well. I know that I did already read a book in January that was an unread book by an author that I already loved. So January is already covered. So I'm going to make sure that I have at least one. Oh, well, I'm reading Cracked Up to Be by Courtney Summers right now in February. So there's my February one. So that was not actually meant to be on my list of 2020 goals, which I'm going to get to in just a second. But I'm adding it now because I like it. So we're going to make that goal number 1 for 2020. My next goal for 2020 is going to be the Archapocalypse Readathon. I'll have information about that down in the caption if you haven't heard me talk about it before. But it's just a readathon all year long that we're devoting to catching up on all of our overdue review copies and staying on track with our 2020 releases. So basically my Archapocalypse goal when I set my TBR and everything was that on December 31st of this year, 2020, that I will not have any review copies that are not like 2021, which feels like a really big undertaking, and I'm not 100% sure I'm going to be able to do it, honestly, because I started the year with about 300 review copies total. I think like 50 or 60 of those were 2020 titles. I told you, I really, really failed at not getting ARCs in 2019. It is a very hefty goal, and I'm not feeling very confident about it right now, but I'm going to try my best. And as close as I can get to completion, even if I can't get all of them, as close as I can get, I'm going to be happy to have made that progress. My next resolution for 2020 kind of goes in opposite of one of my 2019 ones, and that is to borrow less books this year. So like I said, you know, I borrowed a lot last year to avoid buying, which is great. But this year I don't want to borrow or buy. I want to focus on books that I already have because my own TBR is unreal and I need to start working on it. It makes me so sad when I like look at my shelves and I see all of these books that I haven't read and that I want to read so badly. Like I bought them, I spent money on them, obviously I wanted to read them, and I'm just not doing it. So I want to prioritize that more this year. Number 3 is to read less short books and more like full novels, because going hand in hand with borrowing so much last year, I borrowed so many graphic novels. Like I read over 300 books according to my Goodreads challenge last year, but my average page count was like 200 pages because so many of them were graphic novels and manga. And while I do really love graphic novels and manga, and I do want to read a lot more of those, I'm probably going to try to put that on hold this year so that I can focus on my ARCs and catching up on those, and again reading books that I own. So I'm hoping that my average page count at the end of this year is going to be a lot different from last year's. My next resolution is another one that goes against one of last year's, and that is to do more buddy reads this year. And so far I'm doing really well at this because I have already buddy read a couple of things, which leads me to my final resolution, which is to review things faster this year. I have a shelf on Goodreads it's the RTC shelf, Review to Come, and it's all of the books that I've read that I want to review but I haven't reviewed yet. And I usually try to keep that shelf at like 5 or less. I think it's at about 60 right now. I have so many books that I read last year that I haven't reviewed, and then out of the books that I've read so far this year, I've only reviewed, I think, 3 of them. Even if I just do mini reviews, I actually set myself a goal for February. I set myself usually 3 small, like semi-book related goals at the start of every month, and I put those in my TBR for the month. And one of my goals for February was to completely clear my RTC shelf. I'm filming this on February 11th, and I think I have reviewed 4 things maybe off of that shelf so far this month. So if I want to meet that goal, I have just over 2 weeks left to review like 60 things. And most of them are things that I read like a year or more ago, so they're going to be tough to review anyways. But the thing is, I know that if I will review things faster and review them within a day or two of finishing them, I know that I'll be able to get back to writing more thorough reviews, which is something that I used to really be proud of myself for, is that I used to write really thorough reviews, and lately I haven't been, and that's something I would really like to get back to. So the sooner I review things, I know the more thorough I can be, the more clear my thoughts will be on it, and it'll just be easier, and I'll have it out of the way instead of having it build up like they have been lately. And that last resolution actually brings me to a great discussion. I know that a lot of booktube creators feel that reviews are not very well received on booktube, that a lot of people don't like to just sit there and watch just like a single review in a video. So anyways, my point is, I'm curious how you all like to see reviews on booktube. Do you prefer to only see them in a wrap-up, or do you like mini review videos? Like I know Kayla from Books and Lala does like her 3 thrillers thing, where every time she's read 3 thrillers, she reviews those 3. I also know some creators who do a video like after every 10 books they read, they wrap up the last 10 books. So just let me know in the comments, what do you like to see? What do you want to see from this channel? Would you like for me to just stick to wrap-ups, or would you like me to do, you know, every 10 books or so, or only review like the ones that I feel very passionately about? Just let me know what your thoughts are. I'm very open to suggestions at this point because I honestly don't have a clue what I want to do with it right now. And I appreciate any feedback that you have for me. Okay, and that's it. Those were all of my 2020 goals. Other than the Archapocalypse one, I feel like they're all very attainable. I'm especially excited about doing more buddy reads this year because, like I said, it was really sad and lonely to not do buddy reads last year. I really missed them. I've already had so much fun with a few buddy reads that I've done so far this year and that I'm currently doing. I had honestly forgotten how much more enjoyable it is to read a book when you have somebody to talk about with it, like while you're reading it. So that is definitely the goal that I'm most excited about in 2020. So yeah, wish me luck. Again, let me know in the comments what you think about reviews on booktube and how you want to see those happen. And if you like this video and want to see more of me rambling and being a general chaotic mess, please click like and subscribe. It means so much to me. And I'll see you again in another video soon. Bye!